Hello, I'm Kelly from Bobbin Wren, and this is my first foray into the YouTube world. I've watched these videos for years and I just thought, I've got to give this a go. I like to make all sorts of crafty projects. I called myself Bobbin Wren because I like everything to do with a bobbin. So that's sewing, knitting, crocheting, spinning even, and I hope that I should be able to bring some of those lovely projects to you in some of my videos. Hopefully you like this one. We've all got to start somewhere, so it'd be great if you could give me some feedback in the comments below. Today I thought we'd keep something very, very simple. So this is a little brooch that I've made. In fact, I've got a couple of them here for you. Here we go. They're just very simple, made from scraps of fabric. So this one you can see here, I've got a couple of little charms, some buttons, and we've got shirt fabric, some lace, and I printed a little motif on there. Another one I've got here, a little bit more colourful, this one. Oh, there's some awesome fabrics in here. This is from a vintage hanky that I've just taken a bit from. There's a little brass hoop that I've embroidered around. This was part of a scarf. I like the really iridescent the gold thread that goes through there. And this is an opportunity to make something really pretty. Just slow stitching, nothing's very complicated here. I'm not bothered about the stitches being all lined up, just having the fun of putting the needle through the fabric and watching something fantastic come about. So I'll put those to one side. So what you need today is a piece of background fabric. This is actually a lovely piece of cotton from an old tablecloth, and it'd be useful to have a pin. These are, I suppose, the old style nappy pins, but these ones have got little hooks on. Does make it easy for you to then stitch them over there. You don't need to have them with those on, you could easily just stitch over that. Okay, then I've got a few little scraps of fabric. Again, I've got shirt fabric, a little bit of lace here, a bit more shirt, and I've tried to bring the colours roughly together, and I've got this beautiful piece of an old tablecloth. You can see that the tablecloth has been used and used over many, many years. It's falling apart, and this is from quite a large tablecloth that I found. But I absolutely love these little forget-me-nots that are on here. They're just about hanging in there, beautifully stitched, and I just want to make this a centrepiece really, so that I can try and save some of this embroidery. I'm absolutely obsessed with vintage fabrics, and especially things like tea cloths. It was all the rage many years ago for you to hand embroider your tablecloth, or they were given to you as presents, and as they were handed down through the generations, people didn't like them anymore. And you can find these quite happily in either old vintage shops, some charity shops, or maybe you've got relatives that would hand these to you. So I really want to make this a feature in my brooch. Okay, and I've got a couple of other fabrics in here to go. So it's very simple. Put these all to one side. This is going to be my focal point. So I'm going to place this on my brooch, and you could cut the fabric up. I'm just going to lay them on just to see how these would look. Auditioning, I think, is the technical term here. So let's have a little play putting these fabrics. You might want that to be hidden there. Get rid of these threads. Okay, quite like having something. There we go. Sometimes auditioning can take quite a long time. Sometimes it comes together straight away. You just have to have a play. There we go. I think now that one maybe go over there. This one. Yeah, I quite like the fact that. Let me just see. Oh, actually, quite like that. Maybe I'll cut that bit off. Oh, I've got some nice lace here. That could absolutely love this stuff. As you've seen here, I've used some nice stitches that go across, and it shows up the fabric underneath. I think this bit that I managed to get was one of the edges, whereas this seems to be a bit more of a central piece. So let's see. Don't want to obscure this so much, but I like the way it's going over there. So maybe this guy. Let's just take him apart. Move him over. Having the extra fabric here rather than cutting it means that you've got a bit more substance to your brooch, so it feels like it's not going to be flimsy. Right, you're getting lost. There we go. Let's reconstruct this. So you're going to go there. You're going to go there. That's it. Now, would you work well at the bottom? Or would you work well at the bottom? Or actually, quite like you at the bottom. And I think what I might do is fold him over at the end. Right, let's pop you there just like that. Put my lace back under. And I think this flap here really wants to stay down, so I'm going to let it do that. You don't have to use all of the pieces of fabric, you know, you can just, right, still think, well, we can put buttons up there, I think, or, actually, you going there would work nicely. Now if you're going under, what will happen? Let's turn you the other way. There. That's it. Now, see how you work under there. Oh, yes. And then I think when some buttons go in there. I don't think we need these bits. Let's pop them to one side. So next you need to keep them all in place. So let's pop a few pins in. I think something's probably going to be needed there now I'm thinking about it. No, I think that might be something that we pop on later. You don't have to make all the decisions at the start. There we go. And then let's just see what it's going to be like when I pop that on there. Yes, I like that. Okay, so on to the sewing then. Right, I've just put a few threads together that I think are going to work with these. Got some nice yellows which will go with the little forget-me-nots, blues, and this is a lovely variegated one. Some of these are perle, so I've got different thicknesses. I've got a nice thin one there, variegated blue, and then a thicker yellow. This is a stranded DMC, so you can take the strands apart. And again, this is a nice fine one in a lighter variegated blue. So I think what I'm going to do is start with this little fine blue one here. Just take, if you've got them pre-cut, you can just pull them off a card. Thread them. I always hold on to the thread and bring the needle to the thread. Take the other end, wrap it round a couple of times, pull it through, and you get a handy little knot. And I'm going to put some little stitches that just tack this bit on. Actually no, what I'm going to do is start from the middle, because then I can hold everything down quite nicely. So take this one out. Oh, we're not folding over anymore. and I'm just going to be doing a little running stitch. What I try and do, I do a lot of borrow and shishiko work, and so borrow, I'll probably do a little video on borrow itself. Borrow is about treasured rags, and when you try and put fabric over, you want to try and catch this edge here, because that is going to fray over time. So if you can trap that over as you're doing your running stitches, it's not going to go anywhere. And if you want to preserve your embroidery, just go under it. So probably want to do a little stitch there, and then bring it out. And then as you come up the top here again, if you try and trap that, and again with the lace, and go all the way up to the top. Little stitches, big stitches, really doesn't matter. This is the point where you just lose yourself and enjoy it. I am going to finish up here. I find it easier to turn rather than trying to stitch backwards. Turn it round. Now if you want to get a little bit more adventurous, you could do 2 or 3 stitches at a time. Really doesn't matter. No, it's the other one I've got to pull. There we go. This is the point where I normally put a YouTube video on. Sit and watch it, stitch away nicely, have some fun. If you find that as you're cutting through it that you don't like the way, you just try and trap that, bring it up there. Now I want to come up here, I think, just put a little stitch in. Try and preserve as much of that beautiful embroidery. Up, over, and then just trap that in again, like we did last time. Down there, I am going to cover them over, but I'm going to do that in a little bit later because I'm enjoying my little straight stitches at the moment. Width wise, really doesn't matter, so you could follow some of these stripes, for instance. I mean, I've kind of followed that one there. If you want to go very straight, then that's fine. You could even draw little lines on there with a water soluble or one of those friction pens that comes off with the heat. You'd have to be careful with those because sometimes the marks come back when it gets cold again. It depends what you're going to do with your brooch. But I'm not bothered about these stitches being particularly neat. I quite like little haphazard stitches. I don't mind if they're a bit wonky. It is more at this stage about the sheer enjoyment, and I find you can get quite meditative just stitching in and out. If you want to practice getting even stitches, well, that's a perfect opportunity, but it's more about the enjoyment than getting too obsessed with being neat. Okay, right, I'm coming to the end of this thread. Well, I could probably do a little bit more, but I'm going to just finish that off. So on the back, I'll just stitch in again. Take a pair of scissors. Oh, these ones here. Put that off. Now, what can we do next? So I've secured those in the middle with that blue. I quite fancy going a little bit darker and doing something over this area here. So I'm going to choose this darker variegated. Just pull a stitch from the top. And a little knot in its tail, take it down. Right, so what I think I fancy doing is some little cross stitches. I'm going to start here. Simple as that. So on to the next one. Doesn't really matter which order you do it in. I've done a lot of cross stitch over the years, so I try and keep my crosses going it all the same way, but something like this really doesn't matter. That's making a big difference already. Oh, the pins come out. I need to pop him back in again just to keep this secured. I mean, you could go along as you're putting the thing together and put some little basting stitches in to hold everything down. It really doesn't matter. I tend to leave a lot of my stitching to the end, but it depends if you've got a plan. I mean, this one, I thought, yep, I've got a plan. I want to use that nice piece of fabric and have things round it. But sometimes you can do this without any plan whatsoever, and you just put fabric on, and sometimes you might find, oh, I'm going to stitch that fabric down. Oh, actually, I quite like that border now. Let's see if we can capture that on the side. There we go. I like the look of that now. Well, what I'll probably do is pop on some music now and just watch you. You can watch me stitch away, and then I'll give you a little bit more instruction later on. of the cross stitch bits and pieces done, so I'm going to have a little think about what to do next. I think that's definitely deciding it wants to go underneath there. Okay, so I'd quite like to use some of this yellow, so I think rather than putting some fabric along there, I think some nice yellow stitches up there will work. Okay, so this is quite a thicker thread. Pull one of those strands from there. This one doesn't want to thread. So looks like trusty needle thread at a time. Put that through. That little pin out, fold that over. There we go. So, oh yes, liking that. Make a small stitch so that I can, might be better from the side actually. Take that over. Now, because I've got a nice little run, I'm going to just go up and down. And this is the borrow technique, also used in Cantha, where you bring lots of stitches onto the needle and then pull them all through. And then pull the fabric out neatly. Get over the top there. That pink will come out. Take it, make sure I catch that. Now, I'm not going to take it all the way up here this time. I'm just going to do another set next to it. So I'll turn it round because I always like to work from one direction when I'm doing this. So make sure I can catch that one, and then I'm just gonna, and again I'm not really worried whether these match up, and you can get into the point where you want to. Pull it through, and all the stitches last nicely. All the way around now. Let's do this way. I might see if I can catch some of this in now to even that up. I'm going to do one more row. Now, because I'm running out of fabric here, let's see if we can. Yep, we can get it to that point. Now I can trap that. And because I've got all of the fabrics nicely stitched down, if this end bit here frays, it's not going to matter. It's not going to interfere with it. In fact, I quite like the odd loose bits of stitches. This is something handmade after all, not mass produced. The only rules I try and follow is that you trap these fabrics If you can't, sometimes you get to the stitch and you think it's not going to work, then don't worry, but if the majority of them you can. There we go. Oh, I really like that. Don't worry, we're going to, that bit there will get caught over with the next few bits that are going to go on. So at the back, just tie it off nicely. Through. Okay, so we still need to trap this. I think actually now I'm going to put some stitches going the other way down this bit here. Let's see. And I think it might be time for some of this variegated. I definitely get some with a bit of pink in, so let's see how this is going to work. So if I go across with all of the 6 strands, it's going to look that thick. It might be a little bit too thick, so let's try and see what 3 look like. There's 2. There we go. That's coming on nicely. Seems to want to come off in 2s. There we go. I think we can get 3 now. There we go. 3. Because this is a relatively short piece, it shouldn't snag too much. There we go. Leave that one. In fact, I'm going to pop it back on the card. So if you want to put a thread on a card, you just fold it over. Put the little thread underneath the hole. Through. And then that can easily be detached when you need it. Oh, I like this. Brilliant. So, where did the needle go? Trick is to try and get all 3 of them through in the first go. Let's try that again. If you're struggling, just use the needle threader. Again, wrapping that round, push it through, hold on to it, get a nice little knot. Right, now then, I quite like to put some that go over this. So if I start there and then bring it down. So here we go. So trap that one. I'm going to go and see if I can do several at a time. And I'm roughly following the line that's already in the fabric. I quite like it when it goes into the other stitches that are there. Actually, I'll go back on that one. Alright, I'm going to start here so I can cross over that stitch. Oh, I love the way the colours are changing in this. Absolutely love variegated threads. It kind of does, you can have nice simple threads, but it adds a bit of interest then as you're stitching because they change. Little knot. There we go. It's quite a long stitch there, doesn't matter. Take it back round. Actually, I'm going to roughly follow this line in the fabric so I can get several stitches done. There we are. It's also sometimes nice to vary where you start and finish so that you get uneven stitches rather than all trying to line up fully. Alright, I think now it looks like we can fold that in. Trap it at the back. I'm just going to take these individually so I can get them exactly where I want them to be. over some of those original stitches. Get all the way over there, and then just bringing that one back on itself. Also, I like that. There we go. I won't worry too much about the back. If you want to, at the end of the project, you could get another piece of fabric and fold it over, stitch it and hide everything that's going at the back, but I really quite like what goes on in the back. Also shows up how much stitching you've done. Okay, right, let's see what we do next. Okay, so that is going to get stitched down, and I think we could put some nice stitches on this lace. And I think because I've used this variegated thread there, if I use it again up here, then that brings a little bit of continuity in with these colours. So I'm going to see if I can get a little bit more out of this thread. There we go. No, it's not going to play. Let's just go for this thread that we've got here. Get rid of all of that. Right. There we go, we've got them all. Let's make a knot. Okay, so with lace, I can quite happily follow. So we've got these little dots here. We could follow that all the way along. We could maybe follow this. We could even follow each petal. I mean, lace is great because it kind of gives you some ideas of what would look nice. Or you could just blindly stitch across it. It really doesn't matter. It's whatever your heart desires, whatever you're feeling at the time. So I quite like these little eyelets here, so I'm going to go over those. You could even thread some more thicker thread through those, that would look quite nice. Okay, get to the end. I think we might want to neaten that up, so let's go in that way again, and let's just pull in through some of these eyes here. I don't think we need the pin anymore. Oh dear. That was a little alarm. I thought I turned off all my notifications. The joys of first time filming. I'm sure I'll learn a lot. There we go. Oh, we're getting a little bit tangled. So what you can do if you get this is take the needle down to the bottom, pull all your thread out, and bring it back up again. If it gets really knotty here, you just snip it off and start again with it. There we go. Right, and I think this chance to neaten up this side a bit more now. I'm going to go up here, and I'm just now, because I haven't got a even set of eyes, I'm just going to go freeform across it. Let's neaten this up. Tuck that in there. Take that one round the other side. There we go. Just check where that's going to go. I don't think there's any point in doing another one because that's going to get covered up. So let's finish this off on the back. A couple of little stitches. Pop it through. I mean, this point here, if you didn't want to put this on, is you could just stitch it down there and thread a cord through it. It could, in fact, could be a necklace, or it could be little bunting flags. You could pop some ribbon through there. This is where I love watching how these are going to just almost create themselves. You just do a little bit of stitching. Right, I quite fancy some of the that blue again I used here. See if we can get it to go across there. Let's see if I've got some of it left over here. I have. No, it doesn't want to do it, does it? Take another snip off and use the needle threader. There we go. Now, because I want to control exactly how I put these in, I'm going to do them one at a time. Beautiful. Alright, let's just finish that off at the back. So it's really coming on. Just get rid of that. So look at the top. Always nice to see how we're doing on. So I think before we go to buttons, I need to do a little bit more work around here. I'd really like these stitches to stand out. So as you can see, where I've put these stitches in, it's pushed the fabric down. It's like quilted it. So if I do some more little stitches around this area, and I'm going to do some what they're called seed stitches, it will hold this fabric down but allow where those beautiful embroidery is to pop up. So I think with this pale blue, get another one of them. I think when you do seed stitches you can use any thickness of thread, but if you're trying to make them nice and delicate, use a thin thread that's quite a similar colour to the background, and then they're going to sink in. And as this is a variegated blue, it goes from quite a very pale to not really a very strong blue, so they're just going to get lost in the fabric, but it's going to produce a texture rather than being seen. So this you can now go anywhere you fancy. So with a seed stitch I keep them nice and small, and I just change direction. So that's going to go in there, and this is lovely and meditative. You don't have to worry, as long as you don't interfere with the area that you're wanting to stand up, you can really let them go anywhere. It doesn't matter really, even if they cross over each other. And you can see quite quickly that that's allowing that embroidery to pop up. So I'm going to travel round. Okay, right, so that's done. So it's button time. Okay, another obsession of mine, vintage buttons. So I've just pulled together a little collection, and a lot of these are some really fun little buttons in here. So let's see which ones would look quite good on with these. Oh, quite like that one. And that's quite interesting. It's got some other colours that we're working on. I absolutely love these guys. I think we all had these on little cardigans as kids. Let me see. Oh, would that one work as well? Yeah, that works. That works better that way around. You're not really going to work now, are you? So, how would you work down there? Oh, yes, I quite like those. So, you can actually use the nice thick yellow, because then the thread will show. Now, this is the point where I'm actually going to stop. You could just keep on going. You could add some more lace and buttons. You could put French knots in. It really is as much or as little as you want to put on. But I've decided I'm going to put the variegated thread on again, because it's nice and thick, and I'm going to use all 6 strands now just to tie on these bits here. No, needle thread up. Definitely the best way to go. Sometimes you need these because it's pure eyesight that you can't get it through, or sometimes it's because it's a little thick and fiddly. There we go. Now, what I've done on this one is I've just put some stitches on the top there, and this one I've really accentuated them. So I think I'm going to do the same thing again, where I'm just going to stitch it on like that. So you could hide them and you could stitch across the bar if you want to, but I really quite like to see the stitches, and I just think a couple of nice bold stitches. That one could cross actually. Yeah. we are all done. Thank you very much for joining me today, and thank you for supporting my very first video. If you've liked what I've done here, if you could put a like, a comment in the feedback would be wonderful, and subscribe to my channel, because I think I've got quite a few more ideas. In fact, I think I might show you how I made this little pincushion. I've managed to save a little bunting and again save some of that beautiful embroidered fabric. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.